I just threw some numbers together for you. These are the ranks top 15 for teams in terms of all-time wins, all-time win percentage, and the size of stadium. All right. Now you see, like Michigan's number one in wins, number one all-time in winning percentage. They're tied with Ohio State, and they're number one with the biggest stadium size. So I think they're a top 10 program if you can consider that. There are 5 teams in blue there. That means they're top 10 in terms of wins, win percentage, and stadium size all time. Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, and Penn State. Oklahoma, they are not in there. They would be, but their stadium's like 16th, I think, so they were close. Tennessee down there, if not for a fellow named Jeremy Pruitt and some wins that were taken away, you would be one of those teams. Top 10 all-time in wins and win percentage and stadium size, but because of Jeremy Pruitt and those lost wins, you're no longer up there. But you look at that list, you'd have to consider most of those teams to be what you'd think of as top 10 programs. Oregon is not on that list, though. Buzz doesn't rank. We don't have a way to recruit year-long, year-after-year recruiting rankings either, which shows buzz. Oregon would be up there. They're, in the 90s, it would have. Yes, there were in Tennessee in the 90s. In the 2010s, it would have been Clemson. They're not there now, I don't think. But I ask you guys, I'll start with you, Paige. Is Tennessee, have they clawed their way back into the top 10? Or is there still more work to be done?
It's tough because they've made so much progress, especially these last, let's say, 4 years, but so has everybody else. Texas is, starting to come back. You look at Oklahoma, does Nebraska ever eventually come back? But you look at the progress these other programs have made, and it's hard for Tennessee to close the gap on that when they're all kind of progressing at that same rate. I do believe from historically what they've done, what they're doing with the stadium, how they're recruiting, and the wins that they've had recently, I would say that they should be a top 10, if not 11, immediately on the outside looking in. But I do think they are on the cusp. What they've done these last 4 years has closed the gap, but it's tough when everybody else is improving just as much.
Yeah, and another one of those programs like Tennessee that has fallen off is Florida. Mm-hmm. Florida and Tennessee would have both been there in the 90s. One team that wouldn't have been there in the 90s, Georgia. And they've jumped you. I think everybody in the country would say they're a top 10 program right now. Okay, what do you think? Is Tennessee back in the top 10? If not, what do they need to do to get there, to make America think, oh, yeah, Tennessee, top 10 place?
They're knocking on the door. They're ringing the doorbell. They want to know where to park their car. They're not there yet. They're dangerously close. You know how you do it? Make the college football playoff on a regular basis. If you are there on the regular basis, you are shopping at a different grocery store, you're living in a different neighborhood. You are every year saying, we can win the SEC, and we're going to have an opportunity to be able to play for a national championship.
You're flying a different airline.
Whatever you want to say.
You're driving a different car.
You're shopping with better clothes. You're Ric Flair of the world.
I'm trying to think of more metaphors that would work for that. So.
I need them in the playoff talk every year. Like right now, we're having the, if they do, if they don't. We need to have the, okay, when we're talking about home playoff games at Neyland Stadium, that's when you need to know.
Mm-hmm. I think, like them, I think Tennessee is close. I think they've closed the gap. It depends on how you look at it. Are you looking at short term? I mean, with Georgia, you got to look at it more short term than
I'm talking about in the now, which is what, the last 5-6 years, or just
absolutely. So, with that kind of clarity of definition, I think on the outside looking in, I think they can get there quicker than just a regular in the college football playoff. And the one way to do it is to win the SEC and or at least to get back to Atlanta, and then be a factor in Atlanta in the SEC championship game. That will bring you the national perspective, and it will validate what Josh Heupel has done even more. That gets you there quicker than having to be in the playoff every single year, because now you're on a higher level.
But if you get to Atlanta every year, wouldn't you essentially be in the college football playoff? So don't those go hand in hand?
Right, but I'm just saying you break through the first time.
One time.
Then you're there. That makes up for the consistency of, hey, getting in and then maybe not doing some damage there.
Ryan, you talk to these kids all the time. You know what the buzz is. You talk to high school coaches. You know what the feel is around America. Tennessee back to that level of, by the recruiting rankings, it suggests right now, this moment, they're like a top 10 program. But overall, are they back to that level? They still got work to do.
I think they still have work to do. I think we probably think they're a little closer than the national perception, too. I think you look at the rankings, and that tells the story. They've got a star quarterback stepping into the spotlight, a veteran offensive line, a veteran defensive line. They're ranked 15th. I think that's where a lot of people would have them, probably in that 13 to 15 range. I think for us here locally, we see what Tennessee's doing and all the things, the recruiting, everything, how there's positive momentum and nothing off the field that's a distraction. I think we would all have them probably in the 11, 12, 13 range.
Yeah.
But I think that's true. I think one season could change the perception. If Nico breaks through this year, Tennessee makes the playoff, and they get a first-round home game, that could change the perception really quickly. So we'll see. Ask me again in a year or two, but right now I'd say they're on the outside.
Don't take it for granted that you'll still be on the show in a year. I'm just kidding. That's beautiful. All right.
Field.
When we come back, there will be some new signage at Neyland Stadium, but no new name. Let's talk about the Tennessee Pilot deal next. Go back to the Sports Source.